Alright everyone, we start off today talking about Biden claiming that he's going to go tough on Vladimir Putin when he meets with him in Geneva on the issue of human rights. I'm thinking to myself, what a fucking laugh riot that is. The idea of Biden going tough on anyone, what's he going to do? Challenge into a push-up contest? Putin, by the way, you'll remember a month ago challenged him to a live debate online. Biden decided not to show up for it. He's like, no, we're not going to waste our time doing that. I wonder why. Biden's not going to do jack shit because he's a weakling. He's an old, pathetic man. He's literally elderly. He's not entirely mentally with it. He's a figurehead. He's going to go there and issue some strongly worded bullshit to the media when he's at the meeting, before and after. Putin's going to roll his eyes, ignore him, and he's giving Putin, by the way, fodder diplomatically against the United States. I bet Putin will bring up the 94 crime bill. I bet he'll bring up Julian Assange. I bet he'll bring up the U.S.'s various atrocities throughout the last 1,000 fucking years, because this is what Putin does anyway, and Biden's giving him free leverage. You never saw this under Trump. Again, I hate to say, but all the problems that we have were things that weren't really problematic over the prior 4 years. First and foremost, though, before I get into this chucklehead of a video about Beijing Biden trying to be a strong man about human rights, there will be a pinned comment down below this video if you're watching on YouTube with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. Now keep in mind that YouTube, and I made a Substack article literally last night about this, has disgraced itself when it comes to related videos in search, to the point where the site is like, unless you're searching for mainline content, like fucking you want to listen to Montero or something, unless you're looking up stuff that's mainstream to begin with, the related videos in search especially are completely nerfed and make no sense. Therefore, 99% of the people using the site basically are being disenfranchised in order to slowly turn it into an on-demand site. Anyway, getting through that, I can say one thing and discredit the notion that Biden is going to go tough on Putin. Nord Stream 2. Beijing Biden, when he was first elected as the asterisk president of the United States, one of the first things that he did was cancel Keystone XL. A major energy pipeline would have at least marginally lowered the cost of transporting oil through the United States to refineries, creating several tens of thousands of jobs. It's not a huge amount. In the macrocosmic scale of things, it's rather minor. But even incremental decreases in energy pricing and so forth, they have a ripple effect on the economy at large. Drive prices down, increase wealth in general. You've created several tens of thousands of mostly good jobs, mid-paying jobs. That's enough to prop up a small town. It's a good thing. He canceled that. He decided to say fuck it. He also canceled a bunch of energy leases and a bunch of exploratory drilling, basically taking a sledgehammer to the U.S. energy sector. Only a few months later, he decided to rescind. Now, keep in mind, Beijing Biden was one of the people that said, well, come on, man, Donald Trump is controlled by the Russians, insinuating that Putin had Trump as a lapdog or something. But Biden rescinded sanctions on Russia related to Nord Stream 2. Specifically, the U.S. was trying to stop the Russians from building this expansive gas pipeline into Europe, because it would give Russia enormous amounts of political leverage, number one. If you control another country's energy supply, you fucking control the other country. That's number one. And number two, give them huge amounts of money. Russia's already supplying the Chinese at a net loss until very recently, because Beijing stabbed them in the back knowing that he had already 90% finished the project. By the way, that was a huge loss for Putin. It was rarely reported on. At the time, I had a chuckle fest over it. But now Putin's the one chuckling, because he's got this geriatric moron, this goddamn idiot, who honk was totally elected by a record-breaking number of U.S. voters, trying to stare him down. Son, Biden, there ain't no possibility you're staring down Vladimir Putin. You couldn't even stare down your primary opponents in the Democratic Party. Remember when Joe Biden had to basically cuck on every issue? He sat there and he took a knee and had to sit there apologizing and pretending to be progressive and woke because of his tough on crime past. And this is a real godsend to Vladimir Putin, because keep in mind, I'm not a fan of Putin. I'm not taken in by the us versus them, Russia versus US bullshit of, well, I question the US government. Oh, I must be a fan of Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. Bullshit. Fuck that. The Kremlin's just as corrupt as DC. They just have less capabilities of being corrupt because they got less money. That's the only real difference. But when I look at the situation, Vladimir Putin has a literal cornucopia of topics that he can bring up in response to any query that Joe Biden would have on human rights. He can bring up Julian Assange. Why hasn't Biden decided not to keep headhunting after him? He's being held in solitary confinement with limited contact with even his legal aid, despite the fact that he's not technically charged with any crime. He's being held by a third-party nation, the UK, which itself has no goddamn problem with him at all, but refuses to let him go, despite the fact that he hasn't been charged. Well, is that not a human rights abuse and an attack on journalism? If Biden brings up, by the way, attacks on journalists, attacks on a free press, my God, Putin's going to eat him up. And basically what's going to happen here, and this is all fairly obvious. We've seen it before. We saw it with Obama. We even saw it with Trump to a degree. Basically, it's a floor show. Biden's going to come out. He's going to talk to the legacy media heads that are there. He's going to go to Geneva. He's going to have tea and crumpets and whatever the fuck they eat in Geneva, borscht or whatever. He's going to eat interesting food that his wife will taste test for him, I'm sure, and feed him with a spoon or a funnel up his ass. And then he's going to go and he's going to talk to the cameras. And you say, well, I respect the premier of Russia. He'll probably call him the premier or something like that. Just he'll show his age. Well, I respect him, and he'll softball him. I have problems with what's being done in Chechnya, what's being done in Ukraine and stuff, or what's being done in Belarus with Lukashenko. And he'll bring up these vagaries, and then he'll go and meet with Putin. It'll probably be behind closed doors. There'll be a couple of photo ops. Putin will come out and talk to the Russian people and roll his eyes and say, well, we had a good meeting and stuff. We don't see eye to eye, blah, blah, blah. And it'll all be over. You'll get no real progress. Russia will continue building its gas pipeline, which will ensure it in the future against any form of diplomatic pressure from the U.S., by the way. And Biden will pretend that he showed up the big bad man over there in the Kremlin. It'll be all pretense. It'll be bullshit. I think if he actually presses Vladimir Putin, I guess he's expecting people to believe that he's going to do it in private. Like in private, he's really going to give him a good working over. A really good 1950s greaser with a motorbike working over for the commie. That's not going to happen. In private, they're going to be as calm as lambs, and they're just going to chuckle about things and exchange pleasant words, and then they'll come out and grandstand to their respective presses. Putin, if he really wanted to, if he really had a problem with Biden, would decimate him in a debate. Vladimir Putin is not one to fuck with. Again, I'm not a fan of him, but he is rhetorically more skilled than Joe Biden. He is also not demented. And his human rights record he doesn't have to defend because he doesn't give a fuck about human rights. He's an autocrat. He's basically made himself a dictator light. He's basically become another Bashar al-Assad. Biden doesn't have that capability, that advantage. He would have to sit there and defend the 94 tough on crime bill, his VP's truancy laws. He would have to defend the imprisonment of Julian Assange, the assassination of Michael Hastings. He'd have to defend big tech, which is tied at the hip at this point with DC anyway, in its constant, never-ending abuse, censorship, and pogroms of people like me. He can't defend these things. It's impossible. Beijing Biden fundamentally, structurally, could never win a debate against Vladimir Putin. This is why when Putin literally challenged him a couple of months ago to a live debate, he said, we'll do like a Zoom call, COVID and shit. We'll do a Zoom call debate, and it'll be collated on Twitter and YouTube and shit. Biden turned it down. Well, this sounds like a waste of time. No, it's because you know you'd lose. That's the problem. Because number one, you can't speak off the cuff without making mistakes, and number two, you can't defend your own record on human rights. It's impossible. Or on economics. Dude, we got stagflation right now. Hopefully it disappears. I'm hoping that the Biden damage to the economy dissipates and the Trump deregulation manages to work it over the next couple of years until hopefully the Republicans can obstruct what's left of the Biden administration come 2022. That's the best thing for the nation, but I'm not expecting it. I'm expecting some troubled times ahead. Why do you think I invested in crypto more? No, Biden's not going to do jack shit. Human rights, my ass. Like the United States hasn't violated human rights 1,000 times over too anyway. It's the same fucking shit. Look, if you want a nation that's capable of talking about human rights, you're looking at a nation that's generally, it doesn't have enough economic and military capabilities to abuse anyone. Any nation given enough power will be corrupted by that power and abuse other people. It's just a matter of time. You're looking at like Switzerland or New Zealand or Guyana or something like that. And even then you have internal suppression. What the fuck? Biden, it's a laugh riot to think that this man, by the way, even seriously takes serious what he's saying. He's doing this to posture. This is all politics. This is the optics side of things. The optics side of diplomacy. He's got to play it up to his base. Well, unlike Orange Man, I'm going to be tough on Putin. Again, the sanctions on Russia that actually hurt them the most, which was on their energy pipeline deal that was prevented from going forth for several years, was because of Trump. And they were rescinded. Biden has pulled back. Oh, okay, we're going to maintain sanctions on Russia, but not on the most important economic project of the goddamn century that they're embarking on. That's perfectly fine. It's okay if Russia becomes massively more powerful because it's supplying half of Europe with its gas. That's okay. And meanwhile, Biden destroys the pipeline deal that we had with Canada unilaterally for no reason. Because of environmental concerns, despite the fact that a pipeline is safer than trucks and trains and ships when it comes to transporting energy. This was even admitted to by his own energy secretary. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Biden is literally destroying the integrity of the economy. And by Vladimir Putin, he must be laughing. He must be sitting there like astonished that there are Americans that support this moron. That's about all. Peace out.